exciting to speak about this project because
Yeah.
obviously it's such a loved animated film.
Yes,
The
yeah.
challenges of making it a live action film is to make them as resonant, with
That's
the
right.
audience and
Yes.
relatable and
Yeah.
goofy and fun at the same time.
Right, exactly, yeah. Relatable, right?
Yeah.
And think of that. You have to believe that a woman, a woman played by a contemporary actress, falls for this big hunk of fur, right? I mean that's a little easier to buy in the context of a painted universe,
Yeah,
But when you
exactly.
make it real, and that's where I think the real the secret weapon of this movie is Emma Watson, because she's not. There's something about the way she approaches the world that is very modern. It's not. She's not a pushover. She's not. She doesn't give up her smile easily. She's not soft and Disney in that way. There's something a little spiky about her. So that when she gets to the point where her heart is melting, I think she brings us all along with her because it's earned and it's not easy.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, when it comes to animation, now with technology, there's nothing one can't do. When it comes to live action, how much is technology restricted still, or can
Yeah.
you just do whatever you can imagine in
No,
your
you
head?
can't. No, that's
Yeah.
the thing. And that's where, each form has its own advantages. In animation, like in Be Our Guest, it's whatever they could draw.
Yeah.
That's what they were going to do, right? And here, you still have to convince people that those real objects are putting on a show in that dining room and lighting it and somehow all making entrances and exits. You have to figure out that stuff.
Yeah. Do you have the same sense of excitement as I had yesterday watching it with utilizing those songs that everybody knows, by heart,
yeah.
and putting them in a new context?
Absolutely. That's what I loved so much, and I'm so thrilled because I get to see it with 1,300 people tomorrow night for the first time, just to see people discovering that, But it's scary, too, because they do know them so well in one form, and we're playing with that. Sometimes, in direct opposition to what it originally was so that you can pull the rug out from under people, have fun with people's expectations,
Yeah.
But, yeah, it's just that amazing score and figuring out a way to, whether it's Gaston or Be Our Guest, to kind of update the staging of those numbers. That was thrilling.
No, absolutely. And, going back to having, a female lead like Emma Watson, it also gives the character of Belle a little bit more of a girl power attitude,
Absolutely,
doesn't
yes.
it?
Yeah. Emma's real life, also what she's done in the movies, too,
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. Let's talk about Dan Stevens and the challenge, obviously, of portraying the emotion of Beast, whilst
Yeah.
can't really see the features on his face most
Yes.
of the time.
If there was one thing that gave me the most pause, I was most worried about, it was the Beast, because he is not just another character. He's
Yeah.
not the guy. He's not Chewbacca. He is the romantic center of the movie. He sings a song. You have to completely care about him. So. How do you do that? I knew Dan could pull off the performance. When I finished shooting the movie a year and a half ago and put it together and just watched his face, it was wonderful. And then our job was to make sure that everything that Dan had created was going to come through under all this fur. And I think this wonderful combination of technologies has allowed us to do that. And I really think, but mostly it's Dan. It's Dan not only in the exquisite performance he gave, but also in his dedication to kind of, conquering the technology of it.
How did it happen on set? How present was he? Was he there all the time?
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then the
yeah.
animation?
No, so it was
yeah.
very simple. First we rehearsed, and we had a real Beast,
Yeah.
and a Beast outfit that he could pull on. He could rehearse the scenes with it on. He could rehearse it with it off. Then when we shot, he was there in every scene, and his face was not covered by anything. So Emma was able to play with him. He just had on this bodysuit and these stilts that made him larger. And then at night, having done a scene like the waltz, then he would go and sit in a rig, a Star Trek rig, right? And he would not move his head too much, and that's when he'd been sprayed and every pore of his face was being captured by dozens of cameras. But then we would play the music, and on his face, he would replay the emotions and the scene that he just played in reality. And then, with all that digital information, that was applied to what was already shot. and also to what had been designed of the beast face, so that it perfectly reflected what he did.
Is it the right impression that it doesn't get more like a kid in a candy store attitude than stepping on a set like that?
Yes. Oh my God.
And costumes
you have no
like
idea.
That. Yeah.
To be on that again, we built all these sets, huge
Yeah.
sets, but to be in that ballroom and watch them waltz, or in that castle, you know, or in that village, and watch 200 people come together to sing about Belle. Yeah, it's a high like you can't imagine, you know.
And finally, what would you remember as the most monumental challenge of this? Because it is a daunting project.
Right. I would say maybe be our guest as a number, and making sure that we could take something that was pure imagination and make it live in a real world.